You know how people always say, kids have the wildest imaginations? That's what we told ourselves at first. That's what you tell yourself when your 5-year-old daughter insists her imaginary friend lives in the basement of your new home. But kids don't leave muddy footprints coming up from locked doors. Kids don't whisper to themselves in languages you've never heard. And imaginary friends, they don't leave claw marks on basement walls. We moved into the old colonial-style house in upstate New York at the end of summer. My wife, Melissa, and I were excited. More space, a huge backyard, a fresh start for our daughter Ellie after the chaos of city life. Ellie was unusually quiet during the move, more observant and excited. By the second day, she stopped sleeping in her room and insisted on sleeping in ours. "I don't like my room," she said. "Why, sweetie?" Melissa asked gently. "She doesn't like me there." "Who?" "My friend. She lives in the basement. She said my room is above hers and I stomp too loud." We laughed. Kids say weird things, right? Melissa even joked, "Well, tell her we'll get her some earplugs." But Ellie didn't laugh. "She doesn't have ears." That night, I checked the basement door. It was locked, just as we'd left it. We hadn't even unpacked down there yet. It was still full of the previous owner's junk, dusty furniture, old trunks, rusted tools. Ellie talked to her imaginary friend constantly. One evening, I overheard her whispering into the floor vent. "I told you I can't go down there," she said. "Mommy said no, but I drew you another picture." By the end of the week, Melissa found a crayon drawing under Ellie's bed. It showed our family standing upstairs, smiling. Below us, in what looked like a dark, jagged hole, was a long-limbed, faceless figure. It had fingers like needles. "She said that's what she really looks like," Ellie said. The turning point came when I found the basement door unlocked one morning. Not wide open, just slightly ajar, and small muddy footprints, bare feet, led from the door to the vent in Ellie's room. I checked every inch of that basement. No signs of entry, no animals, no broken windows, but something wasn't right. The air was heavy, like breathing through wet wool. The walls felt damp, and one corner was covered in scratches, long, deep ones, too high for a child, too wide for an animal. We called in a pest inspector. He said it might have been raccoons. Sometimes they scratch at walls trying to get in. Could explain the prints if one got upstairs. "But barefoot?" I asked. He shrugged. "Kids with 30 feet?" Ellie stopped eating. She'd just sit at the table and stare at the vent. One night I woke up to her standing at the basement door. "She's mad," Ellie whispered. "You were mean to her." "How was I mean?" I asked. "You locked the door. She doesn't like being locked in." We decided it was time to get help. A child psychologist said it was normal, especially after a big move. Ellie created an imaginary friend to cope with change. But what kind of imaginary friend leaves real bruises? Melissa found one on Ellie's arm, like a handprint. We thought she bumped into something while playing, until we saw the video. We had installed a baby cam in Ellie's room when she was a toddler, and we never bothered taking it down. One night, Melissa checked the footage. At 2:37 a.m., Ellie sat up in bed. She whispered toward the vent. Then she reached out, and something reached back. A hand, pale and too long, slid out of the floor vent, touched her arm, and vanished. Melissa screamed. I didn't believe it first. We replayed the footage again and again. It was there. I went into full protective mode. sealed the vent, put a padlock on the basement door, moved Ellie permanently into our room. We debated moving, selling the place at a loss. But before we could, something happened that made up our minds. I was alone in the house, packing boxes in the living room. Ellie was at school, Melissa was at work. The house was quiet until I heard a soft knock coming from the basement. I froze. Another knock, then a whisper. Not words, just sounds, breathy and cold. I grabbed the baseball bat and unlocked the basement door. It creaked open. The air was freezing. I stepped down, 1 foot at a time, the light overhead flickering. The scratching on the walls had multiplied. There were symbols now, carved, not random, like letters from another language. And in the center of the basement was a drawing, done in crayon. A family of 3, smiling, and behind them, in thick black strokes, a 4th figure, no face, needle fingers. It was signed, "For Ellie, from your friend." We moved out that weekend. Didn't wait for a buyer. We left everything, furniture, photos, even the baby cam. Found a small apartment on the other side of town. It's cramped, but Ellie sleeps through the night again. Mostly. Sometimes she still draws her, the faceless friend. She says she misses her. Last night, I found a new drawing under Ellie's pillow. Us smiling in our apartment. And next to the TV, a vent with fingers curling out. And scrawled across the top in a child's careful handwriting, "I told her where we moved." They say curiosity killed the cat. But in my case, it didn't just kill me. It twisted my reality so violently that I started doubting the walls around me, the faces of my loved ones, even the beat of my own heart. All because I clicked a video. Not a link, not a pop-up. Just a plain-looking file named mirror_clip.mp4, sitting inside a dusty hard drive I picked up at a garage sale for $5. It was supposed to be a lazy weekend project, something to dig through, maybe find some weird old music or forgotten family videos. What I found instead was a nightmare buried in pixels. And if you're listening to this, I need you to promise me something. Do not watch that video. It all started last fall. I'm a freelance video editor living just outside of Denver. My work's mostly wedding videos, social content for influencers, boring stuff. Every now and then I hunt for old tech, broken cameras, film reels, thumb drives, anything I can repurpose or restore. So when I passed by this estate sale on a rainy Saturday morning, I figured I'd take a look. The house was this old gray Victorian-style thing that looked like it had been empty for decades. The front yard was nothing but mud and dying weeds, but inside there were a few tables with electronics, VHS tapes, and dusty boxes. I was about to leave when I spotted a rusty external hard drive tucked beneath a pile of cracked jewel cases. It was unmarked. No brand, no label, just a black case with a USB cord wrapped around it like a noose. $5. I handed the guy the cash and left. Later that night, after editing a client's wedding highlight reel, I plugged the hard drive into my laptop. Only one file. mirror_clip.mp4. I hesitated. The file was just under 3 minutes long. Probably some lost home movie or weird YouTube relic, I figured. I clicked play. It opened with static, loud, crackling static, then cut to a dimly lit room. The camera was shaking, handheld, like someone was trying to film without being noticed. There was a large mirror in the center of the room. No furniture, no windows. Just that mirror. At first, nothing happened, but then I saw movement. Someone or something stood just outside the mirror's reflection. You couldn't see it directly, only in the glass. It was tall, thin, and its head twitched like it couldn't hold still. But here's what made my skin crawl. The mirror showed the thing creeping closer, yet the camera didn't move, like reality wasn't syncing up. At the 2-minute mark, the screen went black. But I swear to you, I kept hearing breathing through my headphones, labored, wet, like something struggling to inhale behind me. I spun around. No one. I slammed my laptop shut and ripped out the hard drive. That night, I had the worst sleep of my life. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw that room, that mirror, and that thing. Except now, it wasn't in the video. It was in my apartment, by the hallway, behind the shower curtain, standing at the foot of my bed. And then, the hallucinations began. They weren't dreams. I'd be wide awake, editing videos, cooking dinner, checking emails, when I'd suddenly lose chunks of time. I'd find myself standing in the corner of my room, staring into nothing, or holding objects I didn't remember picking up. One time, I snapped out of it and realized I had drawn dozens of the same stick figure over and over on my wall, with its head scribbled out. And always, in the background of these blackouts, there was the mirror. I tried deleting the video. My laptop blue-screened every time I attempted it. I wiped the drive. I even reformatted it with bootable software. The file came back. Every single time. I uploaded it to a dummy cloud account just to see what would happen. 3 days later, the account got flagged. Not for copyright, for unexplained algorithmic corruption. And then, I got a message. Not an email, not a DM. It was a text message on a burner phone I only use for client backups. It said, "Why did you watch it?" No sender, no callback number. The next morning, my apartment mirror had a handprint on it. From the inside. Desperate, I searched forums, dark web threads, Reddit rabbit holes, and that's when I found others. A gamer in Michigan said he got the video through a file share with a modded horror game, claimed he saw his mother walk past him twice in the same minute, wearing different clothes. She'd been dead for years. A college student in Oregon streamed it to his class during a media theory presentation. A week later, 2 students dropped out. The professor went on leave after claiming his reflection blinked after he did. The thread ended abruptly after someone posted coordinates to a cabin in the woods claiming it was where the footage was originally shot. That post was removed less than 10 minutes later. By the time I tried to respond, the entire thread was gone, wiped, like it never existed. My hallucinations weren't just visual anymore. I started hearing myself saying things I hadn't said, in my own voice. From inside the mirror, I covered every reflective surface in my apartment with towels and sheets. I stopped using my webcam. I even took down photo frames with glass. But I couldn't escape it. I walked past a storefront window one night and saw myself following me, not just walking behind me, mimicking me, every move half a second delayed, smiling. That was when I knew. It wasn't just in the video anymore. It was inside me. I'm recording this not to scare you, but to warn you. The cursed video doesn't spread by watching. It spreads by remembering, That's how it survives, burning itself into your neurons, rewriting your perception of reality until you can't tell what's real anymore. If you hear of it, if you see that file name, do not click. But if you already have, you've seen the mirror, haven't you? It's too late now. Just know this. When your reflection starts moving on its own, don't blink. And whatever you do, don't watch it again. If you've ever driven through Montana's Glacier National Park, you know there are places where your GPS gives up, where the radio turns to static, and where even the sky feels farther away than usual. It's the kind of place that looks beautiful, breathtaking even, but something about it makes your stomach twist, like your instincts are whispering, "Don't go too far off the path." I should have listened. My name's Jordan. I'm a 31-year-old freelance wildlife photographer. I've been traveling around the U.S. for a project on vanishing hiking trails, the ones that get decommissioned or overgrown and disappear from official maps. The project's called Lost Routes. I thought it would be a clever hook for a photo essay. I didn't expect it to nearly cost me my life. It started with a folder. I was at a ranger station near St. Mary's. I'd already shot Avalanche Lake and Hidden Lake Overlook, but I was hoping to find a lesser-known trail, something eerie, something forgotten. A ranger named Kyle handed me a weathered manila folder and said, "If you're really into lost trails, there's this one folks call the Nowhere Path. Locals don't like talking about it, and it's not on any current map. But the trailhead's still there, out past Beargrass Ridge. You'll know it when you see the faded green sign." When I asked why it was removed, Kyle looked uncomfortable. People got turned around out there, disoriented, lost time. Search and rescue stopped logging incidents from that area in the 90s. Weirdest part? Some folks said it led them in circles. Same tree, same rock, same old footprints. I figured it was just folklore. That's what makes a great story, right? I left the next morning just after sunrise. My gear was packed, my camera batteries charged, and my backpack loaded with essentials: water, snacks, compass, flare, first aid, and a paper topographical map just in case my phone failed. I found the trailhead easily. Just like Kyle said, a rusted green sign with peeling paint and no name. The trail was narrow, overgrown, and felt untouched in years. Perfect for the project. At first, it was normal. Quiet. Birds chirping, trees swaying. I snapped shots of moss-covered logs, empty animal dens, and old stone cairns that hinted at the trail's past. I was maybe 3 miles in when I noticed something strange. I passed a tree, a bent old pine with a heart carved into the trunk. Nothing odd about that. But about 20 minutes later, I passed the same tree again. I brushed it off. I probably took a turn without realizing. I checked my compass. The needle spun slowly in a circle before settling, pointing east, but not consistently. It jittered, like it was confused. Okay, I thought. Compass is busted. I pulled out my phone. No bars. The GPS map wouldn't load. I looked back the way I came, trying to retrace my steps, but the trail behind me had changed. It wasn't overgrown anymore. It looked newer, like someone had just walked it. That's when I saw them. Footprints. Not mine. They were too small. Child-sized. Just one set. Bare feet. The air changed. It was still. Heavy. I couldn't hear the birds anymore. I started to walk faster. The forest grew quieter the farther I went. My breathing was loud. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Then I heard it. Whispering. I froze. It sounded like a child, just a soft, breathy voice behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. I kept moving, faster this time, pushing past brush and ducking under low branches. After a while, the trail forked into two. There were no signs, no markers. I chose the left, instinctively. That's when things got wrong. Everything looked familiar. The tree with the heart, again. Same crooked branch, same footprint, same silence. My watch said I'd been walking for 6 hours, but the sun hadn't moved. It still sat high, like it was stuck at noon. I started to panic. I shouted for help. I fired my flare. I waved my arms. Nothing. Just that thick, unnatural silence. That's when I saw the figure. A child, maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing down the trail, barefoot in a torn hoodie. Pale skin, dark hair. I shouted, "Hey, are you lost?" They didn't move, just stood still, watching. Then they turned and walked off the trail, straight into the woods. I should have turned back, but I followed. The forest closed in tighter. Trees gnarled like claws. The sky dimmed, though my watch still read 1:17 p.m. Eventually, I came to a clearing. In the center was a stone circle. Inside it sat the child, cross-legged. When I stepped closer, they looked up at me. Their eyes were black. Not just dark, black, like holes punched through paper. "Did you watch it?" they asked, tilting their head. "What?" "The video. That's how you got here. That's how everyone gets here." I shook my head, confused. "What video?" The child stood. "Doesn't matter now. You're here. You're part of it." And then they vanished. Not ran, not disappeared behind a tree. Just gone. I turned and ran, full-on sprint. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I didn't stop until I tripped and face-planted into the dirt. When I looked up, I was at the trailhead, right back at the faded green sign. The sun was setting. My watch now read 6:47 p.m. I stumbled to my car, shaking, crying, not understanding how I was suddenly back. I drove straight to the ranger station. Kyle was gone. They said no one named Kyle worked there, hadn't in over a decade. I checked the folder. It wasn't in my car. I tried to pull the trail's location up again. Nothing. No one at the park office would even acknowledge it existed. My photos? Corrupted. All of them. I've been back home for 3 months now, but something's wrong. I keep seeing that child in my dreams. Same hoodie, same black eyes. And just last night, I found a new folder on my desktop. It was titled nowherepath.mov. I didn't click it, but it started playing anyway. If you ever find yourself hiking a trail that's not on any map, turn around. Some places aren't forgotten, they're hidden on purpose. And if you ever saw a strange video that showed up on your device without explanation, maybe don't hit play, because some paths don't lead back. Did this story send chills down your spine? Let us know in the comments. And remember, we post new true-style horror stories every week. So hit that like button, subscribe to Midnight Horror World, and keep your flashlight close. You never know what's lurking off the trail. Until next time, stay safe out there.